In the AFC, the Texans aren't expected to do much this year, but the good news is they have avoided what would be a potential season-long distraction, and maybe longer than that, maybe a lot longer than that, because the word came on Friday, late afternoon. And this is the benefit of the late Friday afternoon news dump, because I doubt there's a whole lot of talk about this on Monday morning, which is exactly what the Texans wanted. They reached an agreement with not one, but 30 Deshaun Watson accusers. One person had sued the Texans. 30 have settled with the Texans. One fell swoop, 30 deals done, case is over, no holdouts. Everybody agreed to the offer the Texans made, whatever it may be. So before the cases even really get started, the case is in. Now, an answer to the one complaint that was filed against the Texans would have been due in a week or so. And even though the Texans issued a statement saying they had no knowledge of the alleged misconduct of Deshaun Watson, we know what Watson's already testified to. When he had some threatening comments made to him that someone was going to expose him via social media, and he told the team's director of security about it, the director of security didn't figure out what the hell was going on and how do we stop this? How do we protect ourselves and the team and the player and anyone else out there who may think that Deshaun Watson has done something for which he could be exposed? No. The director of security, according to Watson, testifying under oath, gave Watson an NDA to use for these encounters. So I suspect that at the very top of the Texans organization, this was a surprise. But the problem is you appoint someone your director of security and that person's out there doing things on behalf of your team. Doesn't matter if he's operating beyond the boundaries of what he was supposed to do. He did it. I think one thing to watch in the aftermath of all this, how much longer does that director of security remain with the team before he leaves to pursue other interests? My guess is that Cal McNair, the owner of the team, not thrilled with the fact that they got dragged into this because of the way they handled it when it all first hit their radar screen, specifically their director of security's radar screen. So they say they didn't know. Ownership didn't know. The director of security did. And what he did in response to that was enough to get the Texans into a jackpot for which they had to write eventually 30 checks to make these claims go away. And that's what Deshaun Watson should have done from the get-go. Settle these cases early. Avoid them becoming a major distraction and a major issue and a major risk of a potential verdict. Now, the Texans would have had some strong defenses. We've talked about this before. The threshold argument would have been, we have no legal duty. Nothing we did supersedes the criminal misconduct of Deshaun Watson. We have no duty to protect the public at large from a guy's criminal misconduct. Now, they would have tried to tie together everything the team knew and everything they did to facilitate these encounters, providing a room at the Houstonian hotel for Deshaun Watson's use, providing a massage table. But still, at what point are the Texans required to connect the dots and say, maybe he's doing some things during these massages that cross the line with others, and maybe somehow we're responsible? I mean, if the guy's not criminally charged, what are the Texans even protecting them from? A potential civil claim that they would have against him for taking things a little too far? So it would have been a tough case. But the Texans would have had to deal with it. They would have had to answer the complaint. They would have had to address whether or not their director of security supplied Deshaun Watson with NDAs. It just would have been a big mess. So whatever the number, it was enough to get all 30 to say, we will accept, we will resolve our claims, and we move forward. Now, will we ever know what the number was? Was it the same for all 30? We won't know. And there'll be confidentiality agreements in place to keep the individual plaintiffs from saying what they got. But as I said when 20 settled with Deshaun Watson, if it really is the same number across the board, and I assume that for one of the 30, there would be sufficient curiosity to say, hey, are we all getting the same amount? Now, maybe the response is, doesn't matter. But I would want to know. I would want to know, wait a minute, somebody's getting more than me. Why are they getting more than me? So let's just assume they all got the same amount. And I think that's a safe assumption, although I have no No inside knowledge on that. Not that I ever do. If all got the same amount and they all know it, it makes it easier for one of them to blab. Because when 30 people have the information, you can just say it wasn't me. When you talk to a reporter who gives you anonymity and promises not to say who the source was, and reporters do that all the time, you're protected, you're safe. If it's one, we know who the leak was. If it's 30, good luck figuring it out. So unless there's some sort of a clause in there that if it gets out as to one, it will be regarded as a breach as to each, although I don't know if that would be enforceable in court, but maybe that's a way to scare them into not saying anything. That if anyone blabs, everyone potentially loses their settlement amount. Again, not enforceable, but it may be the thing that gets them all to not say what they got. And that's a significant bit of information. Don't you feel differently about the Texans and possibly Deshaun Watson's potential responsibility if it's a huge number than if it's just $50,000? Look, the Texans would have spent, to defend 30 cases, a lot of money. And plenty of businesses will look at threatened litigation or actual litigation as a business transaction. What's it going to cost us to defend ourselves all the way through to trial, even if we win? Okay, let's just offer that and be done with it. And if there aren't a lot of hard feelings involved, if no one's character is under attack, and I think it's one of the reasons why Deshaun Watson has resisted viewing these cases as a business transaction, if you can take personal feelings out of it, it becomes a much easier analysis. Hey, give me an estimate, General Counsel to the Houston Texans, of what it will cost us, start to finish, to defend ourselves against these 30 claims if they are filed against us. How much will it cost? Okay, let's just pay it and be done with it. We eliminate the distraction. We wipe out the risk of an adverse result. We buy certainty and make this all go away. If you can remove the personal feelings from it, it's a very easy business decision to make. And I think that's what they did. So I don't know, is it 100,000 a person? 50,000 a person? My guess, if I'm making a guess here, and it's just a guess, somewhere between 50 and 100 is where it landed for each of the 30. Now, next point. Will the NFL investigate the Texans under the personal conduct policy for settling 30 claims? 30 claims with individuals who made accusations, one of whom made specific accusations reduced to a lawsuit against the Texans. The other 29 would have had the same claims, presumably. What does the NFL do about it? Well, to little surprise, the NFL has not responded to a request for comment on whether or not a personal conduct policy investigation is happening as to the Texans. And the Texans didn't respond to a request for comment as to whether or not the league is investigating. But that's the way it's supposed to work, isn't it? The teams don't investigate themselves. The commissioner said so back in February when this delayed reaction investigation happened with the Washington Commanders. And Daniel Snyder wanted to do his own investigation. The commissioner said at his Super Bowl press conference, no, that's not how it works. Teams don't investigate themselves. We investigate the teams. See, the league's in a tough spot with these investigations. And I think the league realizes that sentence we've discussed in the context of Deshaun Watson's disciplinary hearing, owners are held to a higher standard. I'm truncating and paraphrasing. But by adding that gratuitous language in there that owners are held to a higher standard, everything you do or don't do as it relates to a team becomes fair game when the NFLPA is defending players under this revamped personal conduct policy. So how do you avoid it? You just look the other way, or you don't talk about it publicly. You just downplay it as much as you can. And I think that's what they're going to do. So technically, should the NFL investigate the Texans? Absolutely. Absolutely they should. Why shouldn't they? And frankly, if I'm representing Deshaun Watson's interests as we wait for Judge Sue L. Robinson to issue a decision on whether and to what extent he's going to be suspended, maybe I submit a supplemental letter to her saying, hey, if the Texans have settled these 30 claims and the league isn't even looking into it, that's just all the more reason for the league to not have grounds to impose a significant suspension on Deshaun Watson. Now, one last point. What impact does this have on Deshaun Watson? Because it may be one of those, be careful what you wish for. If Deshaun Watson starts arguing the Texans should be investigated for how they mishandled the allegation that I engaged in serious misconduct, I mean, you kind of want to downplay that if you're Watson. And this is on the surface good news for Watson because it ends the possibility of him getting dragged into the cases that were and would be filed against the Texans. No deposition, no trial testimony. He's got his 4 cases left. And based upon the fact that the Texans settled with 30 and there were 24 cases filed against Watson, there are 6 more out there who potentially could sue him. So 4 existing, 6 potential. That's it. Once those are done, they're done. He doesn't have to worry about getting dragged into the lawsuits against the Houston Texans. That's good news. Now, is there bad news? Well, these settlements, they help fund the litigation against him. That's just money that pays expenses that may cause the plaintiffs to say, hey, look, I got some compensation. I'm willing to roll the dice and go to trial and say no to whatever Deshaun Watson offers, unless he really offers a lot. The price goes up to get the plaintiffs now who are still remaining against Deshaun Watson to take a deal. So that could impact him in a negative way. But the best news, I think, is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about this thing continuing to hang over him, even if he settles all of his claims. He doesn't have to worry about the claims against the Texans. And I think from the NFL's perspective, that's good news too. They just want this to end. They just want it to go away. They want to be able to move on. And one of the key pieces would be, and was, how involved the Texans would be in litigation against them. So that's gone. The cases remain against Deshaun Watson, 4, maybe 6 new ones between now and the middle of March, and ultimately whatever Judge Robinson decides. Remember, week of July 25, that's kind of when I'm waiting and watching and wondering whether or not she'll be issuing her decision. It could come at any time, but I think next week is the week for it to land. With that possibility, Friday, middle of the afternoon, late afternoon, just like when the Texans made it known that they had settled their 30 claims, maybe that's when Judge Robinson drops her decision.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.